Y'all done made me stop playing the Elden Ring to respond to this here video. Uh, I'm playing the shit out of this game. I adore this fucking game. And I'm on our Discord, and someone's like, dude, you have to see this. The Quartering, who's a video maker on YouTube. I'm sure a lot of people knew. I didn't know who he was until he did some Spider-Man thing about the costume or something. And then I'm like, oh, I know who that guy is now. Let me get rid of this image. The El Gato. There we go. Okay, so this is his website. He's a very popular YouTuber amongst, I don't know, 1.19 million people, whoever they may be. I subscribe, I think. No, I don't. I don't like his stuff, but I find him inflammatory. But I will say this about the Quartering real quick before we go into this little video right here. I admire the man's hustle. Joking aside, and I know this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, and it kind of is, but it's not also. This guy makes bank, I would assume, if you look at his videos make around, I mean, he gets anywhere from, you know, sometimes a million, but I guess on average, maybe he's hanging out in the 20 to 100,000, depending on the topic. And what he does, I mean, it's you got, I mean, again, I'm not mocking it like he's lazy. He's not lazy at all. The fucker hustles like a motherfucker. But he literally just finds some news that is kind of, that his audience will vibe with. Which tends to be kind of right-wingy, not my cup of tea. And, you know, makes an inflammatory headline, fine. You know, I'm not opposed to drama in your thumbnails. I do it all the time. Not clickbait, but drama. Welcome to marketing 101, you know. But he, like a number of these guys who are really successful, so you can't knock them because it works. They literally don't bring a lot to the table. It's almost like, did you guys hear about Bobby Kotick fucked a monkey? It's true. Here's the story on Kotaku. And then they just kind of proceed to read the story. Like, it's like, I can't read so good, the Quartering. Can you read to me, please? You're my daddy. And it's just like, and yeah, they'll throw in a little bit of spice, which is their take on it. But it's like, well, I can read the fucking article myself. I don't need you to read to me. I come here, not to him, but I come to these kind of sites because I want analysis, insight, education, experience. Jeremy. But I don't, you know this guy really all. I don't know him at all. I've never had a conversation with him. I find him, again, I respect the hustle, but my understanding is he's not the world's nicest guy. At least back in the Magic days, he was kind of creeping on women. And again, nothing wrong with being attractive to the sexy ladies, or attracted to the sexy ladies or to them. But my understanding is he did some, you know, stuff that I would find worrisome. I don't like. And then he's just, you know, he's not my cup of tea. But, you know, everybody has a right to have their opinion. And if someone said, Jaffe, go out to dinner with the Quartering, I would absolutely go out to dinner with the Quartering because we disagree on so many things. I'm fascinated by that. It's like, how much of this is shtick for you? How much is real? Let's talk about how both of our channels, yours is massive, mine is tiny, but how do we affect the audience? Or do we ever think about that? What is your responsibility to the audience? Are you sad because you cover all day long so much negative shit? Are you able, like an actor? A lot of times you'll talk to an actor and it'll be like, oh yeah, man, I did that fucking role and I was depressed for 5 months afterwards, but that's what it takes, you know? I'm interested in people who there's a great line in The West Wing where they talk about Martin Sheen's character, the president, and he says he likes smart people who disagree with him. I don't know if Jeremy's smart or not, but I know we would disagree on a lot of things, so I'm interested. But anyway, I want to go through his video, kind of figuring if we're going to do it in the Jeremy style. I'm just going to play his video, which he did the work on, and I'll stop it and give you my comments as needed. But let me just point out the thumbnail. I like that I'm now the lunatic game developer and I have a gun. This makes me, look, I would never want to be anything associated at all with Mel Gibson, but I will be associated with Martin Riggs, the character he played. So it kind of makes me look like I'm the video game version of Martin Riggs. I'll take it. And then my favorite part is this little trophy in the bottom right here, which I don't know. I mean, the guy spent 20 minutes on it. I'm not like really critiquing his thumbnail game. His thumbnails are better than mine. But it's just funny because it looks like I've got one gun and then I've totally like broken my hand in order to rotate it in such a way that I can hold the platinum trophy that way. It's like, what a strange character this lunatic game developer is. Let's watch this video. Come on now. Here we go. Instant Regret, SJW. Game developer triggers even more SJW Games Media, and it's hilarious. Here we go. Hang on.
Having a lot of...
Let me make it big. And then I'll move... Oh, I'm clicking the wrong screen. I'll move this over here. You know what I will say I admire about Jeremy? I'm not even fucking with you. His microphone is awesome. Or his... I'm so bad at sound setup. His voice is just... It's so crisp, and mine is like not. Not his actual voice, but his recording. Here we go. Jeremy.
Fun with a really bizarre question posed by the director of the original God of War video game, David Jaffe, or Jaff.
That's my dog, Ace. God of War, Twisted Metal Black, Twisted Metal 2, Drawn to Death, Calling All Cars, worked on Kinetica, worked on Mickey Mania. And I was a tester on Three Ninjas Kickback for the Sega Genesis. Let's go.
This is a guy that's had some problems with some of the things I've said in the past. I don't really know who he is, other than that.
It's me!
But
nice to meet you. Here, let's smoke a pipe together, Jeremy. I have a wizard pipe. Here you go, Jeremy. We may not like each other politically, but we're humans. We both came out of a woman's vagina that we assume loved us very much. Well, we can be friends. We don't have to be friends, but we can be civil.
Decided to pose I don't know what you would call it, hypothetical question on the philosophy of how people treat NPCs in video games.
You're correct.
And he asked probably like one of the most bizarre, odd, like inflammatory questions. I'm not sure exactly what the implications were.
I've been over them over and over, and if you're genuinely curious, I will link the video below this in the About section of this YouTube video, where I explain what that, quote, thought experiment, end quote, although that's my word, so I guess I'm quoting myself, was. At a high level, it was me trying to find the most egregious, offensive, horrific scenario. And I picked the minority specifically because I picked it because I was in a nightclub in Cyberpunk, and that's when the thought came to me. So nightclub came first, and then I put the minorities in because I was like, okay, we've been just shooting up random people. We don't even think about what their affiliations are, religions are, political views are in video games forever. But we know the horrible tragedies of things like the Pulse nightclub, where it's not just a mass shooting, but it's, I would say, I mean, they're all horrid. They're all, there's, you know, you're talking about granularity of evil here. But to me, in some ways, you know, if you go into the Black Church, with, like that guy did in the South in Texas, I think, and shoot it up, or if you go into Pulse nightclub, where there was, it's primarily a gay club, and he shot it, it's even more heartbreaking, because at least the first one feels a little random. The first one feels like if you're just like, oh, something tragic like Columbine, or something tragic like the Vegas shooting, which, you know, I mean, I know people who lost people in the Vegas, that concert where the guy was at Mandalay Bay and shooting. That just, you almost can easier chalk that up to almost like random acts of chaos, like a tornado or an earthquake. It's just like this, wrong place, wrong time. But when you're talking about minorities that have been historically persecuted and attacked and belittled and taken off the board and disenfranchised and murdered, and you talk about an individual group of them being hunted, basically, that makes the scenario so much worse, to me, and I think to most people. So, but again, they're all terrible. All the scenarios when you're shooting anybody, certainly a mass shooting. So I picked it, A, because the nightclub, because of Cyberpunk, and B, because I was like, okay, what would be in exploring NPCs and how we respond. It's like, if you don't respond to that scenario in a video game, I don't think it means you're crazy. I don't think it means you're a bad guy. I think that does exactly what the thought experiment was trying to figure out, which is, when you see NPCs, do you have empathy and sympathy for them and treat them, even though we all know they're not real, we're not morons, do you treat them a little differently? And I have found, as I've gotten older, I have been a lot more compassionate to NPCs in games. And I just thought, on a channel like mine, as a former game designer for 20 years in video games, that would be an interesting conversation to have. And so we had it. And some people were just like, no, I see ones and zeros. They're chess pieces on a board. And some people like me were like, no, I can't do that. I don't even shoot innocent. Somebody, I'll read Jeremy's comments in a minute, because somebody keeps going, well, what if they were white? We'll talk about that. But anyway, that's what it was about. Now, it's kind of conversation I was used to in high school, college, English major, all that stuff. That's just sort of where I come from. I like having interesting, at least that was interesting to me, hypotheticals, and digging in and figuring out, what does it mean? And what does it mean if you only see NPCs as ones and zeros? Does that correlate with other things? Do you tend to be more, not that these are real, but like right brain or left brain? Do the more creative thinkers see them more as real, but the more practical people see them as almost like Monopoly pieces, right? As a designer, as a channel about video games, to me that's fascinating. I appreciate it may not be fascinating to you, but that's interesting stuff. I want to know about stuff like that, right? I want to talk about stuff like that. So that's what it was. There was no implication beyond that. And let's keep going. Okay.
It was the implication that gamers were evil, or that they would do anything for achievement trophies.
Yeah, so I've explained that. Okay.
No, I'm not someone that plays video games for trophies.
Me neither.
I like to complete things, but a lot of people, enjoy games. I like to finish them, but I don't need to have 100% a game. Or
Me
like
too,
that.
Jeremy. See, we're peas in a pod.
He writes, this is back on February 22nd. Hypothetical. If you were playing and loving an open world game where there was an easy/automatic platinum PlayStation trophy for going into a minority-filled nightclub and erasing all the said minority NPCs.
It's funny he won't even say killing. Maybe he doesn't want to get his channel demonetized. Boom, baby. What do you mean? I wrote it, Jeremy. It makes pretty much sense.
First of all, as pointed out by Phil, a platinum trophy is for completing all of the gold, silver, and bronze trophies in a game. So your question doesn't even make sense.
This reminds me, I'm watching The Good Doctor with my family. Love that show. Never watched it really before. Knew what it was. Like Toby Ziegler in The West Wing. I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch this. And the main, this will be a real quick aside, I'm sorry. The main character is autistic, but he's highly functioning autistic in terms of society's definition of functioning, and he's a surgeon. And in this first season, he goes into a convenience store to get an apple. I think he lives in Chicago. No, San Jose. And which is weird because it looked like New York. But anyway, he goes in to get an apple, and a bad guy comes in with a gun and says, put your hands where I can see him. And he does that. And then a couple seconds later, he's like, give me your wallet. And he's very literal, this guy. So he's just kind of like, he's. I'm not making fun of autistic people. He literally is like, I can't compute this. Like he's having a breakdown. And it turns out he's like, well, you said put my hands where you can see them, but if I reach into my pocket to get my wallet, you won't see my hands. And that causes this whole crazy chain of event. The point is that The Good Doctor is very much like the guy that this guy Phil Phil Havercroft is The Good Doctor, because I'm like, what? A platinum trophy is free? It's a hypothetical, buddy. And I wrote him on this on Twitter, but I'm like, it's the whole thing is this attempt at an interesting conversation starter for people who are into video games. And it deals with these horrible atrocities that get committed in the world. Like mass shootings and targeted mass shootings on minorities. But that's not the definition of a platinum. Come on, man. Give me a little bit. Give me a little bit of fucking room. I understand. I've designed trophies before for the last 3 games I did. Trust me, I understand the Sony trophy system. But that said, that wasn't the point. I mean, I don't have enough characters to say, if you had completed all the other trophies and you were hunting, you know what I mean. Let's move on. God damn it. What's up?
How about Noam Blum saying, what if there were ceiling blocks you could just fire on to progress, but you just kept firing in a straight line?
Totally different. I'm not getting into that today.
Like, what? I'm not exactly sure. You could see Katie writing, I don't know who she's from.
For her mother.
Says, what do you think this tweet achieves other than egging on people with extreme views and making minorities feel unsafe?
Yeah, I certainly did not. I mean, what I will say to that, and I corresponded with her a little bit respectfully on Twitter after she posted this. You know, I'm not above being wrong all the time. And while I have zero raggarts about this particular question as it relates to why I was asking it, if it were to be made clear to me, and not just with like hyperbolic or line in the sand statements like this makes people feel unsafe, but if it's like, oh shit, I didn't even think, I can be wrong on that, and I would take it down and I would apologize, not for the thought experiment, but no one's pointed out to me how this particular question posed to folks would suggest that it exists or a minority individual would feel unsafe because the question was asked. But again, in a heartbeat, I would never, ever want to harm anyone or make anyone of any group, minority or not, feel unsafe. That's not who I am.
I mean, obviously there's the famous no Russian thing, right?
Hey, Bugs Bunny, that's Bugs Bunny.
Sure, anyone who is miserably treated by others and that poor, unacceptable treatment is allowed, in some cases embraced, by a large enough percentage for it to be attractive.
Did you see that? I'm not a moron, Jeremy, and I know what was the? I guess this is why I'd go to dinner with Jeremy. I would say to him, I'd say,
tragic carpet treatment is allowed, in some cases embraced.
Does he do that with everything that's in parentheses, or was he basically like, you know, taking the piss there? It's like, yes, Jeremy, it is in some cases embraced, and I wanted to make it clear because a lot of people were coming at me as if I was one of those people that I don't fucking embrace this hateful, racist rhetoric horseshit. I don't know why you were, maybe you just had gas. Have some pipe, baby. Come on now. That's for you. I like this quartering. He's funny.
By a large enough percentage for it to be a tragic, heartbreaking problem. So yes, Palestinians fit the bill. What?
What do you mean, what? You make a living off reading other people's shit. One would think you could at least read it. The guy up here literally asked me, are Palestinians an option? Meaning I think this EPZ guy was trying to sort of go, oh, okay, so the Jews and the blacks and the Muslims and the LGBT folks. But, you know, Jaffe, that's a Jewish name. Let me guess, the Palestinians don't fit in. I was like, no, yeah, they totally fit in. That's all right there on the screen, Jeremy. You've got 20, this video will probably net you about 35,000 views, not this one, yours. You can't be bothered to literally, if the whole show's about reading stuff that other people have created, you can't be bothered to look up. Just right there. All you got to do is look up with your neck bone and just go, oh, he's talking. What do you mean, what? That's what? Knucklehead.
Like, what is this guy on?
Hey, Bugs Bunny.
I don't understand. Here's an article on Bounding into Comics.
Ugh, that site.
I'm not offended by the question.
I don't like that site. I just, because I don't like, I mean, you know, it's like everything else. Everything's shades of gray. Do they have some good points when it comes to media? Sure, but they're also, you know, it's like that site. What was that site where they just had so many racist fucking comments? I stopped following them. Because on one hand, I appreciated that they're like, look, we're not going to be beholden to these video game companies. But, man, their comment section was just filled with anti-Semitic, racist, anti-Muslim. It was horrible. What was that thing called? I don't remember anymore, but it was It's a site. I assume it's still going. I blocked them. Here we go.
What the motivation is. Like,
Well, I've explained the motivation.
That gamers would do anything for a platinum trophy.
No, you've already asked that. No.
That people would openly admit that would incentivize them.
Yes, and people did. People did admit that. They said exactly what you're about to say.
They're not real people.
Right. That was the thing. And again, Jeremy, joking aside, there's, to me, as a designer at one time for a long time, and now as just a pure lover of the medium, that's an interesting question to me. The fact that for you, there is no real thought process. They're not real people. I don't even think about it. I mean, you say you don't go out of your way to harm them, but I want to know why. What makes you say that, which makes me or someone else have a totally different view? Well, we're just different. I know. But what does that branch out to in their lives? What kind of an individual life do you lead to allow you to come to such a practical response to an NPC, which is, it's like, I'm not bought into the fiction of this universe at all. That just lets me get my goodies. I did it in God of War. But in God of War, it was intentional. I let you kill people in God of War to get health. But that was to reflect the selfishness and single-mindedness of Kratos. It wasn't meant to be like, ha, 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 look at me, I'm badass. It was like, that's what Kratos would do, and that's what he does. So this is not just like I'm throwing a question out because I'm bored. It's interesting to me.
And also, there's no legitimate tie between people doing things in video games and
Yep.
then going on to do them in real life.
I agree. Never said there was.
Implication that?
Nope.
I'm not sure. Jeff put forward a question on February 22nd.
Well, before you make a video to your 1.x million followers, you could research a little bit. I know. That's harder than just bringing up something and reading it. I know. But what is troubling, I suppose, is someone could watch your channel, JJ. I'm going to call you JJ. Okay. Somebody could watch your channel and go, oh, well, Jeremy's got tons of followers. He's real popular. People really like him, that like his stuff. He must, before he goes live on his mic or records, he must, go out of his way to make sure he's giving us content that he's researched and thought about and made notes on. Oh, you didn't? You're just, okay. That's fair.
Poll on Twitter. So explicit yes or no answers from the general public are asking hypothetical. If you did this as of writing, 43.6% of people voted that they would. I think it was... I have so many tabs open. And
I will say, again, this I know I'm just taking the piss and being silly and stuff. And, Jeremy has a right to do whatever the fuck he wants, obviously, and I support that right. Don't necessarily support a lot of his ideas, but I support his right to express those ideas. Of course I do. But I will say what's interesting about this as well is that, to me anyway, that in the daytime in America, which is where I am, and I tweeted this, the yes was winning, okay? The yes was winning. It was like 52-48, okay? And then later on that night is when that first Kirk guy, and I think he's British, but a lot of stuff started coming from Europe because obviously they're waking up and we're starting to go to bed, but I rarely sleep anymore. I don't know why. It's a different video, Jeremy. We can talk about, maybe at dinner we can talk about why. Do you sleep well? And so that's interesting again. Does that have something to do with Americans and the gun culture over here, or the First Amendment over here being so the First and Second Amendment over here being so understandably a point of passion and a point of bitter debate? Or does that have more to do with just the fact that one or two of these very uninformed, misinformed, obnoxiously left-wing but not actually progressive humans got a hold of it and kind of sounded the alarm, and all their people came in and skewed the numbers, right? Again, this is neat. This is interesting. What causes someone to change? I don't know. Let's keep going.
I think it was higher than that.
It was.
It
was. Yeah. Venom cheese. Did you see that?
Last I looked, it was 42.6.
No, that's the same number.
Yes. Oh, it's right there. Okay. Same number.
You goddamn right, Jeremy.
Asked nearly immediately by numerous...
Is Jeremy okay? Well, why would you say that? Isn't he doing well in class? Well, he doesn't understand numbers, you see. I says to him, Jeremy, come up to the blackboard, you see. And he says, I don't like calling it a blackboard. Okay, fine. Come up to the board, and because he's Jeremy, he might be racist. I don't know if he's racist, but he might be. Come up to the blackboard and show me the difference between 42.6% and 42.6%. And he just stood there, ma'am. Aren't you Mrs. Quartering? Well, yes, I am, but I'm very busy. You know, I have to make my husband casserole every night, and he needs a cigar. And I wonder, was that like? Did you come from a very? I'd go to dinner with Jeremy, and I'd be like, hey, talk about your childhood. I'd totally interview this guy. It's like, were you from a very conservative family, and that's where you get your very conservative views from, or were you from more of like a super left wing or progressive or democratic family? They're all different things, and you kind of push back. I'm curious. Let's keep going. Sorry.
Fans, why would you make such an inquiry, much less in a way that referenced both the Pulse nightclub event and hateful rhetoric? Jaff explained that I would rather ask if, because the older I get, the less I see NPCs as just game board pieces, and I go out of my way to be kind to them. What?
What? You read it. You read my work on your show and made money off of it, like I'm making money off your fucking show now. It wasn't complicated. The older I get, the less I see NPCs as game board pieces. And the more I buy into the narrative of the fiction, the more I go, oh, I know you're not real. I'm not a moron. Why is that hard? I don't think it's really hard, Jeremy. I think that's a dramatic what? I think you know what I'm saying. I don't think you're a dumb guy. You're clearly not a dumb guy. You don't do what you do and be as successful as you are at what you are successful at when you're a moron. You know what I'm at. You know what I'm asking. You know what I'm talking about. Don't what? Come on now. Maybe your audience is stupid, but I'm not. They need to wise up a little bit, Jeremy. Come on. You demand your audience demand more from you. It'll make you feel better, I promise.
Also, it's a question for today's stream, and I want to see what the majority of people would do. First of all, it's a Twitter poll. I'm not sure that you could exactly, you could actually glean from that.
No, but these are the tools I have. And it's enough to kick off a conversation, which was the point. I'm not looking to sort of, write an article for the and be published in like the psychiatric journal or the psychologist journal about this subject. I just wanted to open it up for discussion.
Most of the responses I've seen are like funny, edgy boy responses, memeing on it. His explanation would do little to stem the tide of backlash coming his way, as the video game designer's hypothetical soon draw the ire of not only numerous social media users, but in particular members of the video game press. Perpetually offended Kirk McKeon says, I
don't know Kirk McKeon, but where Jeremy and I can agree, because when I was talking, I want to say it was Mr. K of our community, but somebody was like, I knew you were talking about Kirk McKeon before you even said his name. This is the first I've ever heard of Kirk McKeon, but now Jeremy's saying he's perpetually offended, so maybe that's just his deal. What a thing. It's like, you know what, bitch? Not Jeremy. Jeremy, you're okay for that, but Kirk, you bitch. Here's how you need to be offended. Okay? You be offended by what's happening to the trans community right now in Florida. You be offended by what's happening to the trans community right now in Texas. All right? You be offended that Putin and his thugs have gone into Ukraine with a kill list. On that kill list are prominent LGBT people. If you want to be offended and act like you've got the high ground, Anakin, that's fine. But don't fucking come after me, who's basically has not earned your disdain, because a question like this, good and goddamn well, if you are a journalist, which you are, what I'm talking about, actually show up, donate, use your platform to talk about these things that are actually happening in this community. You know what? You know where I worry about LGBT people not feeling safe? Not in a fucking video game nightclub, but in fucking Texas and Florida. All right, let's keep going. I don't know who Kirk is, but I don't think I would like him. I'll go to dinner with you, Jeremy. Olive Garden, baby. Really? Don't fucking mock that. You know what I've done before, Jeremy? I'm not. I swear you think I'm doing shtick. I'm not. I'm telling you something. I would tell you this to your face. You can call the Olive Garden. You can say, I just want breadsticks. And you sound like a moron, but they say, don't worry about it. We get it all the time. And I'm like, okay. So you go down to the Olive Garden, and it's like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. You can order just breadsticks, and it comes out in this long rectangular cardboard box, and it opens, and the packaging is almost like an Apple product. It's just impeccable. And you open it, and there's like 24 rows of perfectly buttered golden Olive Garden breadsticks just laid out and ready for you and your family to devour. But I'll take you there. I'm not taking Kurt because he's a dick, but we can go there and talk about him.
Effing guy. Honestly, no idea why a dev would go on his show. I'm just asking questions, man. Edgelord Prime. It was an honest question, replied.
I don't understand this. Maybe it's a generational thing. This guy looks younger, this Kirk guy. Edgelord, I've never in my life given a fuck about being perceived as edgy or cool, and I certainly don't now. I am 50 years old, man. I'm 50 fucking years old. I'm thinking about, life insurance, and is it enough? And I'm thinking about getting, my blood pressure down. I'm not thinking about edgelord. Are you a fucking moron?
David, because when I was younger, I would have been all over anything in a game, not in the real world. I still
Yes. Okay, wait a minute. Let's come on now. If you're here from the Quarterings audience and you've waited this far into this fucking hilariously stupid long video that I'm making, can we at least call out bullshit? Listen to what Jeremy. This is the second time he's taken my overly cautious explanations of things and sort of mocked them like I'm a child or like I'm a moron for doing it. Hang on. Look at this.
When I was younger, I would have been all over anything in a game, not in the real world.
Okay, so this is the same guy in this very video that we're watching together that would not use my language that I tweeted with, which was kill the people in the nightclub. My guess is because he didn't want YouTube to flag it as inappropriate because it would be demonetized. So I want you to think about that, Jeremy and Jeremy's audience. Here's a guy who is more interested in taking your ducats from the advertising he makes than he is in delivering the news that he didn't even gather. He's just reading it to you and barely giving you much of his opinion anyway. He's got no problem changing the context of things, but in order to make sure he doesn't come across in a way that the powers that be will sort of financially punish him. When I make it clear, because I'm being jumped on as people actually calling me a racist, like, are you saying you want to do this, Jaffe? And I'm making it clear, no, I don't want to do this. I get mocked for that. But I guess, Jeremy, and again, I'm not being a dick, we could still go to the Olive Garden. I guess in your world, that's mockable behavior, but going out of your way to shift a little bit of the nuance of what you're reporting on or reading in order to maintain your monetization is okay. And that okay was intentionally passive aggressive. Let's just be clear. What I'm saying about that, Jeremy, is I think that's low. I think you either walk the walk or you talk the talk, and you put yourself out there with your bona fides and you put yourself out there with your politics, and you either believe them or you don't. Otherwise, you're playing a character, which is fine. Alex Jones made a huge amount of money doing that, and that's fair. It's a valid way to entertain people, but I just hope that if you're watching this and you are a fan of the Quartering, that at least you begin to question those things. And I think Jeremy would want you to. I don't think Jeremy's necessarily trying to run a shell game, but it jumps out at me.
I still support the right for it to exist, but now that I'm older, I go out of my way not to harm NPCs. That's what we were discussing.
Yeah.
McKeon responded, you could have made the point without making it about minority folk being lost in a nightclub, which...
I did it again! He can't say killed! I'll do it, Jeremy. Minority folk being killed in a nightclub. Isn't that terrible? Yes, it's terrible. And if YouTube wants to demonetize this because the algorithm is not nuanced enough to tell what we're talking about, fine. You can monetize it. You can demonetize it. What do I care? I understand you make a living at this. I'm trying to make a living at this. But end of the day, I'm not going to fucking back down from what I have to say because I want a couple extra pennies from the goddamn YouTube algorithm. Come on now, Jeremy. On that, we can agree, pal.
Is a thing that happens. Would you do something you're morally opposed to for a quote platinum trophy? That's he's proposing. Maybe you should have answered it this way.
Asked it this way. And like, don't tell me how to ask my fucking question, Kirk. That wasn't the question.
Could have, but that wasn't the conversation we were having. I posed the question in a way I felt would cause the most anguish among those who are ambivalent because I am not. I would never do that even to NPCs.
No, I wouldn't.
Taking note of McKeon's initial tweet, PC Gamer...
Okay, this goes on and on and on. You're welcome to watch it. I'll put a link to Jeremy's thing. And this video is already stupidly long, but, I was up till 5:30 playing Elden Ring. Cut me some slack, motherfuckers. Please. But what I will say, the one thing I want to jump to that I just want to be clear, Jeremy says a couple of times in here, let me go to the end, because I bet that's where he says it.
And I guess, I don't really care. They're not real people.
Right.
And it's a weird transition. Is he going to get counseled back to, a normal way of thinking about things? Or is he going to continue to, is he going to backtrack and apologize?
Well, I would never apologize for this tweet. The only thing I would apologize on this tweet about would be, as I said earlier, if somebody could point out to me, oh, well, Jaffe, this is what the problem is with it. This is why minority people feel unsafe. And this is how you did that with that tweet. If that's not hyperbole, or if that's not Chicken Little running around just sort of looking for something to be offended by or upset about or to get virtue signaling with, then I'd say, oh, yeah, I'll apologize for that. I won't apologize for having the discussion, because I still think the discussion's relevant, interesting, and fascinating. But if the way the tweet was written was in such a way that it genuinely made people feel unsafe, of course, that was never my intention. But what I love about this part, and it's in here, trust me, if you don't scrub through it, you'll find it. But he talks a couple of times about, the leftist or the whatever, I don't know what he calls us, eating themselves, eating their own. And I'm like, I just want to be clear. These people are not my people. Just like Jeremy, as much as we'll enjoy you going out to dinner, you're not my people, and I'm not your people. You think I look at these I've never looked at these, I don't know what you call them. They're certainly not progressive. If they were progressive, they would embrace this question, even if they hated it. They would, I don't think I'm a full-on libertarian, but I'm certainly more libertarian than these guys. But I don't, are you kidding me? These guys are as bad as the conservatives I had to go up against when I was growing up in Alabama, when they wanted to ban movies from opening in the theater because they thought Jesus wouldn't like them. I'm with the people that say that the left is gone all the way around to that they've become the right. I'm not a fan of these people at all, and I certainly don't think they reflect progressive values. Are you shitting me? I understand why a lot of them are upset, because there's only so much you can take when it comes to being put upon and left behind, disenfranchised, lynched, shot, before you go, okay, you know what? We tried to do it the nice way. We tried to do it the way that was tolerant and open-minded, but fuck you. I can understand some of them that are genuinely at wit's end, that might engage in sort of I'm done giving a fuck about your First Amendment rights. I'm done giving a fuck about discourse. My people are dying. I can appreciate that. But short of that, these are not my people. Are you kidding me? I think they're morons. I think they're fucking morons. I think they're embarrassing. I think they were educated with a banana in an inner tube, to quote Steve Martin. I don't know where they got their idea that they're the intellectuals. They're cowards. And they're children, and they know nothing about actual debate, discussion, discourse, an exchange of ideas. All they want to do is shut shit down. I don't even know if they really know why they want to shut it down, other than to get a pat on the back and an attaboy. So there's that. I will say this one guy in your comment section was like, well, okay, Jaffe, but what if it was all white people? I'm like, dude, I have no problem coming up with a hypothetical of a club of white people. But that happens already. Most people that on the news that get reported, if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of gun violence every day in America. A lot of it happens in inner cities where you have people of color being the victims of it. You don't see that on the news all that much, but there's a mass shooting in a white high school, primarily white high school. You'll hear about it, so it's not like it doesn't happen. And of course it happens. But as I said at the beginning of this video, I was specifically picking people who have historically been put upon, beaten down, disenfranchised, etc., because that to me is the worst kind of mass shooting when these individuals are targeted. Just like I added the Palestinians to the list. But yes, your list, if you want to paint a hypothesis that white people have been just as disenfranchised, which I'm sorry is moronic to me, but my mind is open. Tell me I'm wrong. How am I wrong? That's up to you to do, but I don't believe you would be right. All right, fellas, that is a long video, but I may not stream today because I was up late last night. So, maybe this will be the stream. If not, whatever. Be well if you made it. If you made it this far, you're crazy. But I love you and I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Jeremy, again, I don't agree with a lot of what you do. But I like your hustle. I don't know what a jib is, but maybe I like the cut of your jib. But I don't agree with your politics. I don't agree with the way you present certain ideas and things. But that's okay. We don't have to agree with that, each other on that. You're a human, man. Be well. Be safe. Reach out if you want to talk or go to the Olive Garden. I'm always up for the Olive Garden, man. All right. I'll see you guys. Bye.